Hey, hello there. Good morning. Welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL strategy show. Yes, Monday night doubleheader. 9 total losses between these teams playing today. Amazingly, the one team that has a winning record is the Cincinnati Bengals. Who would have thought? Not the Broncos, a congregation in Losertown over there in the AFC East between the Dolphins and the Jets, both sitting at 0-3. I mean, look, I like these type of slates. They're fun to me. You can take a bad game and make it good. You ever think about that sometimes? Like maybe the bad games are better for what we do. Because if it's a good game, watching football is okay in and of itself. If it's a bad game, we can make it great. We can potentially make it life-changing. And that's what we're going to try and do here today. Appreciate you guys hanging out. As always, take a single second this morning. Atone for your sins. Hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. And leave a comment down below. It's all free, by the way. You don't have to pay a cent for that. Nope. Just an ounce of kindness is all. It goes a long way. Anyway, that's Greg Ehrenberg. I'm Dave Loughran. We got a doubleheader and a fun one coming up. 500K up top on DraftKings. Some big contests over on FanDuel as well. What's up, brother?
Yeah, tone for your sons, guys. So, it was a pretty interesting day yesterday. One of the better weeks it's been overall, we've gotten a lot of winning screenshots here, but even one of the better weeks that I can remember us having at all for NFL, there were so many winning screenshots I saw from so many different people and all different high dollar contests, low stakes contests, large fields. There was so much stuff that was good from subs, which was really cool to see. And then also, just for myself, shout out to the Sims, because if it was not for the data on the site, I would not have played Ashton Genty in lineups yesterday. And our data was just jamming him into lineups. So I was like, all right, I guess I just have to. I couldn't get off of Genty because of how much our data pushed him. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to be playing Genty. I had a lineup that almost won the main contest on Owner's Box. Hilariously, the guy who screwed me there was Cam Scatterbo. If I would have, for multiple reasons, it would have been hilarious. If Scatterbo, he had so many carries on the 1 yard line. If he just scores one of them, I would have won the. Yeah, I came in 8th in the flagship contest in Owner's Box, just one touchdown from Scatterbo, and I would have ended up winning there. And then I would have been able to tweet out the winning lineup and gotten back to a bunch of people who are saying I'm an idiot for not liking Scatterbo. But instead, that would
have been true justice right there.
Yeah. And then same over on FanDuel. I had some pretty high finishing lineups, and a lot of it was just from the data jamming Ashton Genty, who, there was a lot of other pieces like Ram stacks that we were on, Amari and Hampton, for example, but Genty was all the data on the site.
Yeah, for sure. The data was fantastic yesterday, man. It really was. My sweet Travion Henderson didn't get there for me. He had, dude, I honestly had 100% right read on that game, but not the backfield split. Like, I went into that. I bet the Patriots. I'm like, this is just the typical spot. The Patriots should have won last week. They're going to come out there and smoke them. I said it all week. They did. The Panthers scored on their opening drive, and then they were lifeless throughout the rest of that game. But what sucked is, like, there were chances, man. And then blowout run. I'm like, now at the same time, it actually didn't matter, because if I wasn't playing Henderson, I would have been playing Scatterbo there, right? And Henderson did score, and he got like 13 or something. What mattered was Genty, Drake London, Puka Nacua. The data was all over those guys. And I will say, I had a real shot. I had a very nice day, but it could have been, I didn't win anything. I had 216s in some of the larger field, like lower dollar stuff, and it didn't matter, Like the highest I scored in one of those was 40th with a 216. It was a crazy day. But if that Jonathan Taylor monster touch, Adonai Mitchell didn't just fumble into the end zone. He was also responsible for that Jonathan Taylor touchdown being called back. And that was like a 60-yard run by Taylor. Just absolutely brutal. I had him in the power sweep with a great lineup. Yes, Geno sucks. But either way, I hope you guys had a good day. The truth is, you're right. If you had run the Sims, and I made some changes, but nothing crazy. Like, I did want more Drake London. I wanted more Henderson. That didn't work out all that well. But again, it probably just would have been Scatterbo. Hampton was another one. Hampton was a big one. If you use the data, ran the Sims, used the single lineup sims and ran like heavily, well simmed lineups, you probably had a good day. Spicy, I was checking the power sweep, Spicy.
Yeah.
I saw you up there. Congrats, brother. You said finished third in the power sweep. Solid week 4. Sims help a ton. Best projections in the business. I did see him. I saw so many Stokastic avatars yesterday.
Yeah, it was a good day for the data for sure, where, a lot of the chalk that we generally thought was good chalk hit. But then also, the stack that the Sims were pushing the hardest, it was some of those Stafford double stacks that even before Loughy, even before the data was updated, when you and I were just kind of going over the slate ourselves on Wednesday and hand building lineups, even then we were talking about some of those Stafford double stacks. So yeah, it's nice when things kind of come together and work out. And shout out to a Spicy Chipotle who, third in the power sweep. That's good stuff.
Love to see it, man. And, before we get into it, we're going to dive into this slate right now. But before we do, if you guys just, coming off an amazing day with this data, if you guys want to get access to our tools, one, you can just click the link down there in the description. That'll take you to all of our packages, whether it's weekly, monthly, core, or max. You can poke around for yourself and see which one you want, or you can spare yourself the trouble. Go to that link right there, tap it if you're on your phone, click it if you're on your computer, and where it says sign up with any of our sportsbook partners, get a free month of the Sims. Greg, there's no easier way. I tell you guys all the time, you choose one, you have to click claim offer or we can't track it. Simply sign up on any of these. If you're in non-legal betting states, we have Sleeper, Underdog, Better, all of these. Onyx, we just added Onyx. Yo, you spend $10 on Onyx, you get $100 in Onyx cash, which is already, you're already free rolling. Right? So you have $100 to bet with on a $10 spend. And then on top of that, you get a free month of the core Sims, right? It's available in 40 plus states. So whether it's Onyx, which we just added, Caesars, Fanatics, which is a very good one, $50 to $250. All of these other ones are $5 or $10 minimum deposits. Simply sign up with that claim offer, deposit, place a bet, which is whatever the minimum deposit is. The moment that bet or that pick'em lineup settles, take a screenshot of your welcome email, your first settled bet, and email us at support@stokastic.com. If that sounds like a lot of steps, it's not. And Ron is super great about getting back to people quickly and setting you guys up with free accounts. So that's all you have to do. If you were to sign up with 4 of these too, let's say like anywhere from a $20 to $40 total deposit across all of them, plus all of the bonus bets and match deposits you get, you're getting 4 months. You can free roll the entire NFL season simply by going through this offer right here. As I always say, Greg, there's no easier way to get access to the best tools. And someone on the deeper dive yesterday was like, there's no site out there that helps people get access to their tools for, as cost effective as we do. And I take pride in that.
One other thing too, really quick. I know people are going to want us to talk about the football.
We're getting right into it right now.
But also, I did, in the interest of Loughy talking about getting our tools for free, I did do a free giveaway over on my Tails page for the weekend, where if you guys like to post there, I was going to pick one random person who won a free sub, and I have the winner right here. It is Bradley Hacker. So Bradley, go and email support. Let them know that you won the giveaway from my Tails page, and you're going to get yourself a free Stokastic NFL Sim sub. So I'm going to be running more of those on my Tails page. We've done a few of them so far, and that was the winner from this week is Bradley Hacker. So shout out to him.
Yeah, man. Come over there, hang out. All right, let's get into it. And yes, Jay Nevy, I did see that. Oh God, chat's moving too quick. There we go. Yeah, our friend Morgan Wiper, who took down the Millie last week, I interviewed him in August for his main event win in the MLB. Yeah, almost won the Millie had it not been for that Adonai Mitchell touchback. I know he DM'd me right after the slate was over. And look, I can't feel terrible for him because the dude's won like multiple millions of dollars, but absolutely a bad beat. We were going back and forth for a while yesterday. Just a really sharp guy, man, and he deserves it. It certainly isn't. Sure, there's some luck involved, but it's certainly not just luck with the way he's been playing, man. All right, let's do it. We got 2 games. Greg, I'm excited we can talk about like multiple games at each position. That excites me. And we'll start off at the quarterback position. I'll tell you what, you're talking about Tua Tagovailoa and Justin Fields. I like the over in this game at 44.5. Like, I actually think it looks pretty decent here because Miami's allowing almost 80% completion rate to opposing passers this year. I know it's only 3 games, but their secondary, their defense in general has been gutted. And the Jets secondary has been really bad. Like, it's just a reality at this point. Maybe they can fix it, but it's shocking that Aaron Glenn comes in there and hasn't fixed things yet. So I don't know what to make of him, but this is actually a spot where if we're talking Tua or Fields or Brees or Garrett Wilson or Tyreek Hill, like, yeah, this game could end up being 13-10 because bad teams can just play bad football on either side of the ball. It's like the stoppable, movable force against the stoppable object. But this could also, I think you could also have a real possibility to see some scoring here.
I really like getting to Tua tonight. So everything you said, I agree with. But on top of it, too, Tua is the cheapest quarterback on the slate and the one pulling the least amount of ownership. That seems wrong to me. Like, why is Jake Browning both more expensive in a more difficult matchup than Tua and pulling more ownership? I know it's not a massive difference. Browning's 18% on compared to 16% ownership to Tua. And it's not to say that I think Tua should be like 30 or 40% owned or anything like that. He has not played great this year, but I also don't think he's as bad as people have made him out to be. Like, especially from a fantasy standpoint. We're 2 weeks removed from throwing for over 300 yards against the Patriots. He's thrown some awful interceptions this year. But in general, the fantasy production has been, relative to expectations, not as bad as what it's made out to be. He had a tough matchup last week against the Bills in a primetime game, and the Dolphins held in. They were in the mix in that game until the very end. He played really well against the Patriots outside of one horrific interception that he threw in the later stages of that game. I just don't think it should be 16% owned at $5,200 on a two-game slate against the Jets.
I hear you. Neither do I. And Deuce Trey said, Jake is good, had a bad game. You know, I'm having a tough time with this, Deuce, and the reason why is because it was pretty obvious why he could have a bad game coming into that. Talked about it in my picks for every game video I do over on the OddsShopper channel on Tuesdays. Brian Flores can dial up the blitz. They can get a lot of pressure. If Jake Browning is pressured heavily, he's going to be in for a long day. He was pressured on 57% of dropbacks last game. That's not a sustainable way to move the football when you already have one of the most fragile offensive lines in the game. And now you have a Denver defense, Greg, that can literally rush for and get a higher pressure rate than any team in the league. So I think that's a little bit concerning. If you're talking about, can they generate the same type of pressure as Minnesota did last week? If so, what happens is you just kind of neuter this offense. And Denver is capable of doing that. I know their secondary has been underwhelming, but I still believe they're good. There's a part of me that thinks Browning could struggle again. Now, there's another part that says you never want to bet against these teams coming off a brutal blowout loss. But the Broncos are 1-2. Like, it's not like the Broncos are flying high right now. They've lost back-to-back games on walk-off field goals. So I don't know. Maybe Browning's okay. I'm kind of having a tough time with it, though.
Yeah, the data doesn't like him, and I tend to agree with that as well. In one respect, it's kind of a buy low spot for Browning because there's just no way his stock could be any lower. And I do think he's a very competent backup quarterback. We've seen him step in because Joe Burrow's gotten hurt a bunch over the last few seasons. Yeah. You know, we've seen Jake Browning step in, and he's been competent. He's not he's not like Nathan Peterman level backup or anything like that, as people might be painting him to be after the game that he had last week. It's nothing quite that bad. I just hate the matchup against Denver. I don't like that he's the second most expensive quarterback on the slate, and then he's also a little bit more popular than Tua. He's my least favorite quarterback of the four. I think there are viable buy low spots for the Bengals, but Browning isn't the one for me, and it's more so on the betting and the betting streets as well. So, like, one of the bets that I posted a little, like 3-4 days ago, well in advance of this game, I bet Jamar Chase over 5.5 receptions. It was like plus 120 was the line. Like, that to me is a viable way to buy low on the Bengals. I don't want it to be Jake Browning and DFS is the place I go, though.
Yeah, I'm not huge on that. I do like the idea of getting to Jamar Chase. I mean, the question now is, does Patrick Surtain hold up? Patrick Surtain got burned a bunch by Quentin Johnston, but historically, Surtain has been very good at eliminating wide receiver ones. Also, you can just play whoever you want on this slate. That's another thing. Like, pricing is super soft I love Justin Fields today. I think $5,500 is criminally underpricing him. He has mobility. This guy he leads the team in red zone carries inside the 10, inside the 5, and he's played 2 games. I know a lot of that came against Pittsburgh, but still, like, they want to use his mobility. They do. You have to. Pairing him up with Garrett Wilson, this is not going to be a contrarian play. I'm a huge Garrett Wilson fan, though, and I know that Justin Fields over his career actually has propped up his wide receiver ones. It's just, to me, like, I have no problem going Fields, Hall, and Wilson in the same lineup. That doesn't bother me even a bit, despite the fact that Breece Hall gets cannibalized a bit by Justin Fields' rushing upside. Hall's a good pass-catching back as well. So, yeah, man, I think, where are we at on Garrett Wilson exposure?
Yeah, let's see. Garrett Wilson showing up nearly identical with the field.
Yeah.
We've got him projected for 59.5% ownership. He's showing up in 59.3% of the top 150 lineups I favored him.
Yeah, I get it. I don't really think I get away from it. Miami's defense has been bad. Miami is playing on extended rest, having played last Thursday, but Fields is good. I don't know, man. I like a lot from this game. I really do.
Yeah, it's easily, we only have 2 games to choose from, but it's easily my favorite game to stack is the Jets Dolphins game over the Bengals Broncos game. And it is pretty surprising to me how much more ownership. I mean, the Bo Nix one makes sense just because the matchup is so easy against the Bengals. But yeah, I prefer stacking Jets Dolphins over Broncos Bengals.
By the way, DraftKings actually had a really good promo yesterday. It was play $750 and get 3 $20 tickets. That's better than they usually have. Typically,
I didn't have that offer.
No, yeah, I did. And this is the first offer I've gotten from them in a while. Like, I can't remember the last time I've had a decent offer from DraftKings, so I was pretty happy about that. Yeah, and I didn't see it until later in the morning, so I don't know, but we'll take it. Put me in the game. Coach Chris asked, Waddle or Breece Hall is the last piece in on DraftKings. I think your build type depends. I really think it depends on the build type here. Like, if you're stacking, if you have a single stack, I think in most cases I would prefer Waddle there. But it depends on the build. I don't mind either of those guys. I still, though, like, if you're talking just 1v1, pricing doesn't matter, nothing matters. Although Breece Hall's 5,700, which is still pretty dumb on this slate. Like, just if you're just asking me in a vacuum, Greg, it's clearly Breece Hall for me.
Yeah, and I mean, the easiest way to look at it is Jalen Waddle. We have projected for 12.85 fantasy points. Breece Hall 16.05. If it's really close, then it's kind of more for me. Which way do I feel, one way or another, for whatever reason? But when there's a fantasy point gap of 3+ fantasy points, I'm almost always going to be recommending the guy who projects that much higher.
Yeah, I don't see how we don't. Lee, yeah, the slate will be one with the shitty tight end. It is a bad tight end slate. It is a bad tight end slate. We'll get there, but I do want to talk about running backs. Before we do, if you were to kind of map out how you're going at quarterback, would you say that it's Fields and Tua up top for you, followed by Bo Nix and then Jake Browning?
Yeah, and as far as Bo Nix goes, I do think that he should be projected the highest of any quarterback on the slate. For me, though, I just look at the ownership here, and Bo Nix is projected for nearly 40% ownership. So relative to ownership, I'm going to be prioritizing Tua and Fields over Bo Nix, and then you just hope one of those QBs outscore him a little bit, because if you go ahead and you look at a 2-game slate, this is one where it's not going to have quite as many dupes as a showdown slate, but it definitely becomes way more important, the dupes, than you see for most NFL slates. So you see here, there's some lineups that are expected to be duped really heavily, and almost all of the most duped lineups have Bo Nix at quarterback. So the simplest way to differentiate a lineup is you play Justin Fields or Tua at quarterback as opposed to Bo Nix.
Yeah, and I think everyone's going to be relatively popular here. Like, I think Tua will be more than 16 once we update this. That still seems low to me. Like, I'd be surprised if he comes in lower than Jake Browning.
Yeah, I could see that. Although, what are the team totals for the game? What's the Bengals team total compared to? Oh, yeah,
Bengals
the
are
Bengals team
18 and
total
a
is going to
half.
be.
Dolphins are 20. Dolphins have a 5-point higher total.
Yeah, two is going to end up being higher on than Jake Browning on our next update.
Gotta be, right? 26-point total for Denver, 21 for the Jets. It's lower for the Jets, but Fields has rushing upside, which goes a really long way. Common pennies. The data love Jacoby and Brock Bowers, though, hurt a lot. Love Jacoby. I did not personally get a lot of Brock Bowers on this slate. I think I had like 9 or 10%. I did have a lot of Jacoby Myers in good lineups. That one hurt. Would not disagree there. Truthfully, the Sims just liked the Raiders a lot. So it was going to get you to a bunch of Raiders, but also a lot of Ashton Genty.
Yeah. So, what's funny is the data gave me some of Brock Bowers, not a ton. I personally boosted Brock Bowers to force him into more
So did
lineups,
I.
which I don't. It's kind of funny in hindsight because that gave me more double stacks of Geno with Genty and Bowers, just because a lot of those top Bowers lineups had Genty in them as well. So I don't know how much of it was a negative for me. It was definitely better that I didn't have the 20-ish% of Brock Bowers that I played. But yeah, a lot of that was definitely my own error, which I don't even totally regret. I'm going to be doing the same thing with Brock Bowers going forward on other slates as well, where he's not really popular. But yeah, I went out of my way to try to get Bowers into more lineups.
Yeah, same. I boosted him and still only got 10%. And when that happened, I was like, well, I'm not going to boost him too much higher. Jay Nevy brings up an interesting point. I kind of like this thought process, Greg. He says salary so soft today. I might set a rule no lineups above 49.5 to try and tamp down the duplication on a short slate like this. What do you think about that? Because I think the Sims are going to offer a lot of that to begin with.
So I have our top Sim ROI lineups on screen right here, just sorted by top Sim ROI. And here's why I'm going to say to a Jay Nevy, I don't even think you have to. Look at our top lineups. How far down do I have to go to find a lineup that has 49.50 or more?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still scrolling here.
There's one.
Oh, here we go. Yeah. So, I mean, I had to go all the way down to like my 35th lineup to find a single lineup that was towards the top of my Sim ROIs that was 49.5 or higher. Like the Sims are going to take care of a lot of that for you with just weeding out some of the more duped lineups that are just not going to show up. So if you don't make any, because there are going to be some unique lineups that use, 49.5 or 49.6 or something like that. It's not like it's only lineups that are using all the salary showing up towards the top of the Sims. It's the inverse. So I don't even think that you have to make that rule.
It's a good point. K Jizzle, thanks for the super chat. How is Miami's defense against running quarter? It's hard to say, man, because it's like, you go up against May, you go up against Allen, and then you went up against Daniel Jones. They've done, like, if you want to take that 3 guys that are mobile, they've done a decent job, but I'm really not super worried about that. It's just not a very good defense right now. And I think Fields will have to run no matter what. And I think Fields has pretty decent touchdown equity, but yeah, good question. Helps when we know a little bit later in the year. It's just not a very good defense to begin with. Alan, yes, we are going to do a perfect lineup video. I'm going to record that right after this show ends. Appreciate you guys supporting that one for sure. You want to talk running backs here?
Yeah, and one other thing too on just the Dolphins against running quarterbacks, which you pointed this out. The defense generally has just been shitty. I tend to think they're bad at all facets of the game. They've given up. Yeah. They've given up. Not that points is the end all be all, but they've given up 30 points in all 3 of the games they've played so far this season. So that's something a good defense isn't going to do. But on top of that, also, it's not even like these quarterbacks have been in some of the best situations to run. Week 1, the Colts beat the Dolphins 33-8. Why the hell is Daniel Jones even going to attempt to run the ball aggressively in that kind of situation?
And didn't he have 2 rushing touchdowns?
Yeah, I think he did from the they were
vultured Taylor on 2 of them.
Yeah, but like there wasn't a real need for him to be running in the open field a ton. Same went for Josh Allen last week. Like there wasn't in a game where they're winning 31-21, and even though it was closer than what a lot of us thought it was going to be, what the final score was. It did always feel during that game it was kind of an inevitable win for the Bills. There wasn't need for Josh Allen to tuck the ball and run it 10 plus times or anything. This is going to be the matchup for Fields, the best opportunity a quarterback has had to run the football against Miami this season.
Yep. And through 3 weeks, they've allowed 3 rushing touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks. That's more than any team in the league, and most teams have played 4 games already. So looking at quarterbacks here, or running backs here. So to me, this is less about these guys. I mean, obviously it's important, but what I really want to know first, before we dig into any of this, and I'm not seeing any of it, and I looked last night kind of prepping for this show, you know where I'm going with this. Is there any, by the way, the Millie winner yesterday had a naked Mahomes with Woody Marks and Tongas at tight end. I mean, that's how you say it, right? That was, so. Yeah, whatever. We all know the tight end for San Francisco. So what do you make of, like, are there any, there was part of me that goes, do I roll the dice on a little RJ Harvey and hope that maybe he can, break out a little bit here? Maybe they give him a little more work. Maybe they blow him out. I feel like RJ Harvey is the guy that I'll boost just enough to get some of him, because who wants to play RJ Harvey right now with the fact that Dobbins is getting all the work? Plus, on a main slate, I would never even mention this, Greg, but J.K. Dobbins' injury history is extensive enough to where maybe there's an in there for RJ Harvey. That would probably be the one guy I'd look at. Maybe Braylon Allen vultures a touchdown, but I think Harvey would be the guy.
So there's 2 for me. Harvey is certainly number 1, especially because I think this game does have, if you had to pick one team that you think is most likely to win by blowout, the answer is so obviously the Denver Broncos. And in that kind of scenario, this is where I would think you try to get RJ Harvey a little bit of extra touches, maybe try to get him going a little bit. So not anybody that I'm going to prioritize, but he's one of 2 secondary running backs who I'm willing to give looks to. RJ Harvey is one. The other one's Ollie Gordon. Ollie Gordon was really involved last week against the Buffalo Bills. He even scored the first touchdown of that game. He ended up with 9 carries for 38 yards. If you tell me that you're going to be getting 8, 9, 10 touches out of Ollie Gordon, that's pretty appealing to me. And then when it comes to Devon Achane as well, Achane's going to be crazy popular. He's projected for nearly 90% ownership on this slate. I think you could play Gordon and Achane in lineups together. But with that said, if you wanted to get off of the Achane chalk in a really significant leverage way, you can play some lineups that have Ollie Gordon instead. We already, just a week ago in a primetime game, we saw Ollie Gordon vulture a touchdown from Devon Achane. So it's not a far-fetched thing to think could happen. And then also, Devon Achane, you mentioned J.K. Dobbins' injury history. It's not like Achane has been some guy who's been, a model of health throughout his NFL career either. So Achane, I do think, is the best overall play on the slate, but I'm not going to be having 100% of him. And I do think it makes a little bit of sense to play Ollie Gordon in a couple of lineups that don't have Achane.
I agree. The only reason we're not right now is because salary is so soft. Mm-hmm. Coach Rouge, hey man, I just saw your DM now. Can I? This is very cool. If you don't mind me sharing, he just said, hit a nice one with the help from you and Ben every week. Appreciate you guys. Have made me a significantly better player. Thanks, dude. Oh, dude, monster score. Yeah, look. Anybody who had like the Genty spots yesterday, and I really liked that Atlanta stack as what Coach had. That was a decent one too. I mean, they came through. Sometimes, Greg, we just need to find and kind of unearth these spots that people aren't looking at. Do you do that on a 2-gamer today? Like, do you try to find spots that people aren't getting to on a 2-gamer? Because you know as well as I do, there will be times where on a 2-game slate, like a 3% guy just happens to have a game. And there have been plenty of times where I don't have them and I basically like zero out. Not even zero out, because you're not going to not cash with a lot of it, but you're just fully blocked out from a top 1% finish.
Yeah, for sure. And here, I'll show you guys how I do this. So RJ Harvey, for instance, I don't know the exact amount, but if the data isn't giving me RJ Harvey, what I'll do is I'll go in here and I'll just do like a 300% ROI boost, something crazy that I know is going to force him towards the top of lineups. And then after I do that, and boost the ROI, I'll go into that actually might have not even been a high enough number to give to RJ Harvey. But then what I'll do is I'll unfavorite my top lineups. I would go and do an exposure cap. I would go to RJ Harvey and I'll put in, say, 5% of a max exposure to him. Then I set exposures and adjust favorites. And then what usually would end up happening here, once again, I might have not done a big enough ROI boost to RJ Harvey, is then, okay, it was good enough. So then when I go and look at my running back exposures, this will get me the number of the player I want. Sometimes you just have to do, like, honestly, like this where RJ Harvey really doesn't sim well. Sometimes you have to do like a 500% ROI boost. But yeah, I will do that with RJ Harvey and Ollie Gordon to get them into a specified amount of lineups that I want to play of them later. So that is a way that I do that with the sims. A lot of people ask, how do I set a min exposure? That's how I go about doing it. But yes, I will make sure that I get a couple of these lower owned running backs for tonight that I think have upside in a way that's kind of hard to quantify.
Yep. And Josh, to answer your question, when you boost players to get more or less of someone, change the projection. Typically I want to try boosting them first, because changing the projection can get squirrely because a lot of times people will change the projection. If you're doing that, you should be changing the projection for the team, not just an individual player. And you don't want to change ownership in the contest generator because that, as Greg has mentioned many times, is the ownership that we're going to essentially have them at when you run it. The field's ownership, not your exposure. That's different. The pool ownership is what you would be adjusting in there. So if you boost a guy from like 10% to 40, all that's going to do is run the contest generator. And now it's going to inaccurately display his ownership in that contest at 40%. You're going to end up getting less of him. That's what's going to happen. You'll get less. So ROI boost, exposure caps, the way that Greg did it right there is another way to make it happen. You can also do uniques, set up more uniques, and oftentimes that'll spread your exposures out more without going into exposure caps. You'll get less of guys, the higher owned guys, more of some of the lower owned guys that you have. A lot of different ways to kind of massage it to your liking without making any mistakes.
So the reason I like the ROI boost over projections, which it kind of serves the same purpose, but the reason I prefer the ROI boost is it's so much easier to make adjustments to than the projection. So let's say you wanted to get more of RJ Harvey and you change his projection to 9.42 fantasy points. You run the sims and then all of a sudden he shows up in 20% of lineups. You might be saying, well, I don't want that much of RJ Harvey. Well, if you're only doing projections and not doing ROI boost, then you have to go back and you have to keep changing his projection and running the sims over and over again until you get the desired projected ownership that you want for him. So I just find it so much simpler to do the ROI boost because it's so much easier to change quickly as compared to changing projections. And then you're just gonna have to run the sims over and over again.
Exactly. All right. So running backs, Dobbins, man, he's popular. He is the one there right now. Breece Hall, Devon Achane, Chase Brown. I actually think I like Breece Hall the most on this slate. I obviously like Achane, but does Ollie Gordon start getting more goal line work? I genuinely think that's a possibility. They talked about Jalen Wright being that guy, like Tyreek Hill early in the season when he's like, no knock on Achane, but he's not a goal line back. Does Mike McDaniel and company understand that? If that's the case, you may need some further out from Achane, or at the very least, what you see is it's not just Achane's part of the field. Like he might get a couple. That's what you see often, right? Breece Hall obviously has to contend with Justin Fields and also potentially Braylon Allen. But I just think Breece Hall in competitive games is so much better than everybody else on the field. I like him. Obviously, I like Achane. I want to get to Brown, but dude, they can't block right now. That run defense is good for the Broncos, unless you're Jonathan Taylor. I don't know, man. I'm having a tough time with Chase Brown. You're going to end up getting there for sure, but to me, it's less about that and more, as you mentioned, do we get to a little Harvey? Do we get to a little Ollie Gordon? Can we argue that some of these guys are viable on this slate, even if you're only getting 5% or so of them? How are you kind of going about running back, seeing all of these guys are so popular?
Yeah, so I think there's two different ways to look at it. First is Devon Achane, who kind of exists in his own realm. He's the best play by a mile to me. The data finds it very difficult to get away from Achane. He's showing up in 97% of lineups. I'm not going to actually end up with 97% of Achane, but he's just in his own price tier. If you have $7,000 in salary on the table, you're just playing Achane as opposed to leaving salary on the table to go to Chase Brown or one of the guys in the 5K range. So Achane, tier of his own. Then you got the rest of the guys, Chase Brown, J.K. Dobbins, Breece Hall. And I agree with you. I like Breece Hall the most of these guys for a couple of reasons. And a lot of them also is kind of echoing what you said. But for Chase Brown, brutally difficult matchup. And the Bengals have had negative success running the football so far this season. He's 47 carries for 93 yards. He's averaging less than 2 yards per carry. And then in the passing game, he's not getting a ton of targets. And when he is, they aren't going anywhere. He's averaging less than 4 yards per target. And now he's in a really tough matchup against the Broncos. The matchups overall haven't been ideal for Chase Brown. It's also just not getting easier this week. So I find it hard to prioritize Chase Brown. And then as far as J.K. Dobbins goes, I do think as the year goes on, R.J. Harvey's going to take a little bit more of his workload. And then Breece Hall, he's the one in the 5K range I overall feel the best about. We've seen Breece Hall. There was, some idea coming into the season that we were going to see Braylon Allen potentially either cut into his workload or just become the workhorse back himself for the Jets this year, which is just not proven out to be the case. We've seen so far in terms of touches for Breece Hall, 19 carries and 4 targets in week 1. Week 2 is a blowout loss to the Bills, so it was just 10 carries and 3 targets for him in that game. And then last week against the Buccaneers, we saw 9 carries and 6 targets for Breece Hall. It looks like we're getting 15 to 20 touches for him per game this year, as long as games stay competitive. And now this is also by far the easiest matchup that he's had. I know the Steelers defense has been a little bit underwhelming so far this year, but I still think that long-term, it's going to be a solid defense. And then the other matchups, Bills on the road against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, by a mile, easiest matchup Breece Hall has had this year is against the Dolphins.
I'm going to go out on a limb here. And it probably doesn't even matter because you're going to be playing 2 or 3 of these guys in every lineup anyway. I think I like Breece Hall over Devon Achane this week.
Okay.
I just think he has a better matchup in both phases of the game. If Devon Achane was the clear goal line back right now, I'd feel differently. But neither of them are. I like them both, though. I like Dobbins. I want to sprinkle in Harvey. Chase Brown would be my 4th. But you can't – I think it would be very unwise to just X out Chase Brown. It doesn't make enough sense. He's still – if nothing else, right, consider this, fellas and ladies. I see a few of you in chat. That's nice. He's still getting like absurd amounts of opportunities. Last week was a blowout. So you saw Samaje Perine. Taj Brooks played 10 snaps, and those are the only 10 snaps he's played on the season. If this game is close, you're getting like all of the touches to Chase Brown. So it's just a volume game, right? That's all it is.
Yeah, and for sure, on a 2-game slate, there's no running, but it's all relative to the slate. If you guys saw before I made the adjustment to force RJ Harvey into some lineups here, just to show you guys how I go about doing it, we only had Achane, Dobbins, Hall, and Chase Brown showing up in lineups at all in the Sims. Of those 4 guys, I do like Chase Brown the least, but that just means he was showing up in 45% of lineups, whereas all the other running backs were in 65+% of lineups.
Yep. All right, let's talk about wide receivers. We will get to tight ends and Darren Waller. I see a couple questions in there. I'll say this much. I think that Darren Waller is I think you're better off betting over 10.5 receiving yards on him than you are going heavy in DFS, even though it's a bad tight end position. So I got you there. You could convince me of it. But he's undoubtedly, and Mike McDaniel's already pointed this out, going to be on a snap count. My guess is he's going to be on a significant snap count after he, was exhumed from the grave and brought back to life, Greg. It's not like this is just a guy who was ready to play. Like, he was in retirement. So he didn't play the first 3 weeks. I can't imagine he plays a ton of snaps.
Yeah. The only reason to even get to him at all, and like you said, we'll talk more about tight ends when we get there, is that the tight ends are dog shit for this slate. Like there are no good options. There are only bad options at tight end. So, I mean, we might legitimately see 7 fantasy points from a tight end end up being in the winning lineup. Our highest projected tight end is Mike Gesicki at 6.64 fantasy points. But yeah, like we're not that far removed from Darren Waller making very odd music videos, and now he's playing NFL for the first time in a while.
Yeah, man. All right, wide receivers. Before we do, guys, got a lot of stuff posted on Tails. I'll have an exclusive perfect lineup posted over there today, DFS lineup. Matter of fact, the one that we posted for on Friday for the main slate was, in fact, a Drake London, Penix, Pitt stack. I don't know what the rest of it looked like, but we've actually had some pretty decent results with some of those, and we will keep posting them as we go along because it is fun and we enjoy it. So yeah, make sure to jump over there. Link in the description to follow Greg and myself. It's not like you have a credit card you have to put in. You literally just sign up, which takes a second because you don't actually need any of that. You can sign up with Apple or with your email without even setting credentials, right? And then just follow us, turn on notifications if you want, and then we will be in business, man. So be sure to do that. And if you haven't, it's DFS content, it's free bets, everything is free. And we do that because we're building an amazing platform. And why not get in at the ground floor? Think about it. Like, get in at the ground floor when this is new, where everything across the board is free. Everything, and there's tons of it, and you can just follow the people you want. So very excited about it. I know a lot of you guys who are in there are also excited about it. Our friend Josh Engelman as well. How about that? He's in chat, does the perfect lineup with me, posting some great futures bets for NBA. So yeah, hop over there, jump in. We got a lot of awesome stuff. All of it is free. And we got DFS content on top of that we've been posting in there as well. So yeah, good stuff, Greg. I like it.
Yeah, and like Loughy said, it's free. The app is free. If you're following me or following Loughy, certainly turn on notifications because that is going to be the fastest way to get the bets sent to your phone before any of the lines move. I placed over 20 bets for yesterday's NFL main slate and had really good results. Same way that I did my bankroll thread in the past, starting last week. Every bet that I post over on Tails, I'm tracking it. I'm posting all the results. And yeah, yesterday was the best NFL Sunday that I've had betting so far this season. Ended up going 14-8 on the bets that I posted to Tails.
Nice. The only guy that let us down, Ladd McConkey. That was
yeah. I also, by the way, the data on the site was every single ROI boost that I made was absolute dog shit. Ladd McConkey was another one for me. Any player who I personally liked, who I said I want to try to get more of them into my lineups, total dog shit. And the other thing too with Ladd McConkey is the first few weeks, just looking at some of the advanced data, I thought it indicated like, oh, Ladd McConkey's played pretty well. He just hasn't gotten the opportunities. I watched the entirety of the Giants game with my dad because my dad's a diehard Giants fan. And it was Jackson Dart's first game. Ladd McConkey fucking sucked yesterday. I don't know how many drops he was credited for, but he had 4 in the first half. I think one of them was called back due to a penalty. He could not. It was like watching Marvin Harrison the first half the other day. He could not catch the football.
Not fun. Kind of sucks.
Yeah. He might actually, I thought people were overreacting when they were saying, hey, Ladd McConkey, the Chargers wide receiver through this year. That actually might end up being the case. It doesn't even mean he's bad. They are just, I think Quentin Johnston might be very, very good. And Keenan Allen's also solid. Like McConkey might end up being the 3rd wide receiver this year just because of how much talent there is there.
Yeah, I mean, he graded out miserably. He was credited with 2 drops, but overall, that sucked, man. Look, if his prop keeps coming down into like the low 50s, you best believe I'm going to bet it again. But we'll see. I
also bet his. I think I had over 60.5 receiving yards at plus money for him that I bet earlier in the week. But yeah, it was no good.
He was close. Landis Clayton, $10 super chat. That Falcon stack hit pay dirt. Would have never been on it if it weren't for you, dudes. Nice, man, and thanks for the support. Appreciate you. All right, let's take a look at this. Tyreek Hill, Garrett Wilson. We talked about Wilson already. Cortland Sutton, yes. Jamar Chase. And there's not really all that much that distinguishes some of these guys from the other. I will say, though, the Troy Franklin price point at 4,100, I'm very intrigued by this. He did not have a good game last week, but the prior week he was essentially the number 1 on that team. And if you start looking at like snap counts, running the same amount of snaps as Cortland Sutton. If you start looking at like route participation, Sutton's ran 100 Franklin's rent 87. He's been targeted 18 times to Sutton's 21. These are the clear 1 and 2 options. Sutton, of course, number 1. Franklin, number 2. Mims, a distant 3rd. You have hardly seen any involvement from Evan Ingram, even through his first 2 games. He missed another one. Franklin's interesting if he's going to be 15% at 4,100 against this Bengals defense.
Totally agree. The only sticking point is how necessary is the $4,100 price tag going to be. It seems not all that needed based on how soft the pricing is. But I do think that if we're looking for a lower owned wide receiver who's sub 5K, he's pretty clearly the guy to pick. Pretty clearly.
He's got to be. I missed.
I was about to ask, did you make it?
I never miss. Yeah, it gets ugly once you get cheap. Malik Washington makes sense. He's dirt cheap. Again, how much do you need to get to him? Probably makes a lot of sense in like just straight Dolphins game stacks or game stacks. T. Higgins, sure. Like him and Jamar Chase, I get it. I'm not a big Jake Browning fan, but you know what? Weirder things have happened. We've seen a lot of this lately. Dallas dropped 40 on a Green Bay Packers team that people after 2 weeks were like, man, they might go undefeated. That's funny. 2-1-1 now. The Saints rushed for a ton of yards. I know because I was on the Kendre Miller ladder getting weird yesterday against the Bills. That game stayed competitive until they tried to run the Philly special and got picked off. There's just so many games that should be blowouts and end up not being blowouts. So I'll never X guys out with that in mind, ever. If nothing else, I like to sometimes grab those type of plays. But, Greg, you're not grabbing 2 guys that are unknowns. Like, this is Jamar Chase. This is T. Higgins. These guys are still going to be popular. Chase is going to be absolutely chalky. So, you know, we are actually well under the field. My guess is he's probably our most negatively leveraged player on the entire slate.
Yeah, by a lot. And if Jamar Chase is actually going to be over 80% owned, I also want to be coming in underweight to the field on him. So we've got Jamar Chase right now. He's showing up in 40% of lineups, but yeah, that's well underweight to the field when he's projected for 83% ownership. That is a ton of ownership going to Jamar Chase. And when you look at our fantasy point projections, yes, he is projected for more fantasy points than any other wide receiver, but not by that much. I just mentioned before, I took a stab on betting an over on Jamar Chase's receptions prop when I talked about a betting angle that I liked, and I bet him over 5.5 receptions at significant plus money. He is very similar props to Tyreek Hill, to Garrett Wilson for today, but he's like 1.5x the ownership. He's $1,500 to $1,700 to $2,000 more expensive than some of the other top wide receivers on the slate for a marginal increased fantasy point projection. Jamar Chase is projected for 16.3 fantasy points. We have Tyreek Hill projected for 15.96, but Hill is $1,500 cheaper, and he's got 25% less projected ownership. The ownership looks very, very high on Jamar Chase at the moment.
It does. And our friend Morgan Wiper, who took down the Millie last week, finished second in the Millie due to an Adonai Mitchell fumble into the end zone. Congrats still on the big cash, Morgan. Let's not overshadow the fact that it was still a 6-figure win. Mentioned people are going to play Chase because people like to spend salary and there's literally nowhere to spend today. It's a great point. I was building out some dummy lineups last night, just getting a feel for the slate. And I built these out and then I had one spot left. It was like 8,200. Yeah, everyone's going to go to Chase there. Everybody. Meanwhile, you could go to so many other good players. Like, you could go to Hill, Garrett Wilson, Sutton. These guys are all underpriced, honestly, for the slate. You could go to Higgins or Waddle there and leave $3K on the table and probably still build a really good lineup, Greg.
Yeah. I mean, think of it this way. You have a lineup, Jamar Chase versus Tyreek Hill. I just talked about how marginal the projection difference is. But how often do you see lineups, to Morgan's point, that are leaving $1,500, $2,000 in salary on the table? You have such an easier path to make a unique lineup simply by going from Jamar Chase to Tyreek Hill, and there's barely any kind of concession made in fantasy point projection. Barely any.
It's crazy. Is this an epic show, by the way?
This is DraftKings Pick 6.
All right. I had to get the right overlay back up there. Speaking of DraftKings Pick 6, I think you're going to have some good betting opportunities today. And I think some of the correlation spots are going to be very, like, if you're building same game parlays or you're building out cards on DraftKings Pick 6, Greg, I do think there is some element of like trying to play for correlation in these spots. Obviously in DFS, right? We all know that. But even in these Pick 6 cards, based on the direction these games take, it's going to influence what the entirety of all of these player props look like. Like if, like, let's say Denver routes Cincinnati, or Cincy keeps it really close. If Cincinnati keeps it close, you should absolutely be looking towards some of those overs, which are depressed on a lot of Cincinnati players. Or if, because I think it can, that Miami and Jets game shoots out with only a 44.5 point total on Pick 6, I'd be looking to build some cards out that have all of those kind of correlations built into them. And I understand it's only a 2-game slate, but to me, that makes a big difference. I wouldn't just be spraying and praying with plays that have nothing to do with each other.
For sure. Even some simple things like if you were to go Jamar Chase over receptions, T. Higgins under receptions, anything like that on a 2-game slate, that'll make your card make a little bit more sense. And then also what's going to make your card make a little bit more sense, just take advantage of the new customer offer they have where your first $5 in Pick 6 sets, that gets you $50 in bonus picks. That's an easy way to end up winning tonight.
Very easy. Adam, the Sims have also been jamming McMillan and Jacoby Myers, and they were busts. Yes, you're never going to get 100% accuracy rate. That is why oftentimes playing more lineups is good, even if you're entering them into like the mini max or the dollar, like all of those spots. Hobbs, Tone people, only 122 likes. That's ridiculous. Yeah, what do we got? We got 700 people watching with us this morning. Take a second. Hit that thumbs up. A Tone, appreciate you in advance. All right, any other wide receivers that haven't been mentioned? Because I don't even want to dig too deep into some of these guys. Like, yeah, I like Sutton. I love Wilson. I like Tyreek Hill. They're all going to be popular, but I like them. So, Higgins getting way less ownership than Jamar Chase. I really think Higgins could be an important, dare I say, crucial part of this slate. Like, if I'm not getting the Chase, it doesn't mean I have to get the Higgins. But I would like for a lot of my non-Chase lineups to have Higgins, especially if Chase is going to spend, or if Surtan's going to spend a lot of time on Chase. I know he got beat up a bit last week, but there's still something there to me, Greg, where maybe Higgins just ends up having that big game, and it comes at the expense of Jamar Chase.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good leverage point. It's a good leverage point to me to be going to T. Higgins instead of Jamar Chase in some lineups. It's just a massive difference in ownership. And price point, where Jamar Chase is $8K, Higgins is $5,600. The price gap makes sense, but the ownership relative to the price gap is a little extreme to me. T. Higgins, 32% owned. He is one of the wide receivers we're most overweight to the field to. And then Jamar Chase at 82.5% owned, the wide receiver most underweight to the field to. So from a simulation perspective, it makes a ton of sense that we'd simultaneously be getting underweight to the field to Chase, but then overweight to Higgins.
Tiffany, thank you for the super chat. These shows have really helped my scores. What does the randomness percentage actually do? And if we get the Sims at the price it's at now, is that price going to be locked in? I'm not Morgan Wiper yet. Yeah, neither am I. So totally get that. Randomness means, like, if you were to just, in a single lineup Sim, set it with 0% randomness, and you'll see Josh in the perfect lineup video when he builds them out with the foundation. I'm laying the framework or building the framework, and he's running the Sims. Sometimes he'll run no randomness. Sometimes he will. Without randomness, Greg, you're basically just getting the optimal plays put in there. But with randomness, it's going to randomize who comes into those lineups more, which oftentimes you want some of that. Otherwise, the build just might end up being very chalky.
Yeah. So as far as randomness goes, if you set it to 0 randomness, it is just going to give you the optimal lineups around whatever you play. It'll just be 0 standard deviation. Here are the best possible projected fantasy players. But if you want to have a little bit of differentiation included in there, then you can put the randomness. I wouldn't go all the way to 30% or anything like that, but just 5-10%, it is going to get you close to the best projected lineup, but just a little bit of differentiation in some of the options. It's really good if you're playing like 3-4 lineups. You want to play a core and then just build around those players with a little bit of randomness there to get yourself some differentiation around your core players.
Yep. And Tiffany, you could go into the link down there below, or you could sign up with any of our partners, the sportsbooks or pick'em sites, get a free month of the core sims, or tune into the perfect lineup video with Josh and myself today. Maybe a little discount popping up on that video. Should be out around like 2 Eastern. So stay tuned. All right. Tight ends. Yo, what the hell are we doing at tight end today? This is so disgustingly bad.
Spray and pray. Spray and pray.
You really just have to hope that nobody has a good game, honestly.
Yeah, I hope the position just doesn't matter. Evan Ingram is, to me, easily the most talented tight end of all these guys here, but he's been dog shit this year. He hasn't been healthy either. That's an ongoing issue that Evan Ingram deals with all the time. There probably is no player more likely to leave a game early than Evan Ingram. It happens to him 2-3 times per season, maybe even more than that. He's $3,700, so he's the most expensive tight end. I am not going to be playing a ton of any one individual tight end. This is also a rare slate. This shows how shitty the tight ends are. This is a rare slate that the Sims are not giving us a decent amount of double tight end lineups. It's because of how poor all of them are projecting.
It's disgusting. And I thought the same thing that you just pointed out, right? Like you're not going to get 2 tight end lineups. Like how could you? There's no way. I don't hate Mason Taylor. I don't hate him. This guy, I think, is going to be good if they can get a quality enough quarterback. He's playing a lot. He's running a lot of routes. As disgusting as it is, he still is like the top tight end. It sounds gross, right? He has what, 6 for 43 on the year. It's not gonna, you're not gonna hear any alarm bells going off to play Mason Taylor, but the whole position's bad. The whole position. And he's been targeted 9 times. Ruckert has 3. That's it. So, he's dirt cheap. He's 2,700. Miami's defense stinks. I'll get to some Mason Taylor. We're actually over the field on him, which I don't hate. Evan Ingram, yeah, sure. Gesicki, fine. But there's so many other weapons in that offense. Then you're getting down to like Troutman and Waller. Waller's going to be limited. Like you're praying for like one big play, Greg, or a touchdown on Darren Waller, which is possible. But 3,500, he should be the same price as Mason Taylor and Adam Troutman.
Mason Taylor has the most receiving yards of any. I believe this is true. The most receiving yards of any of the tight end eligible players on today's slate at 43. I'm pretty sure that's the most of any of these guys.
That's remarkable. He's going to be out there. That's all I can say. He's going to be out there. You can't ask for much more. Honestly, we talk about volume being key. In this instance, it's like just be on the field. Just be on the field. That's it.
I would say maybe or just be cheaper than the other tight ends because they are most likely to all suck. And then it's just who is the cheapest one who sucked the least. Like could you get 5 fantasy points out of Adam Troutman at $2,600? And he's just cheaper than the other options. And he scored 5 where other guys scored like 4.8 or something like that. People are going to obsess over the tight end position today because it is so hard to make a selection. I don't think it's going to end up mattering. And I think all of these guys are probably going to be pretty comparably terrible. Maybe one guy has like 2 catches for 18 yards and a touchdown. And that's the one that differentiates a little bit. I wouldn't obsess too much over the tight ends for today, though, because I really do view them as equally terrible across the board.
Yep. Someone said, watch Tanner Hudson have 2 touchdowns. Yeah, seriously. Doesn't have a single target this season. He's going to have 2. It wouldn't surprise. You could literally see the optimal tight end having like 2 for 15 and a touchdown. If that's the case, that could clearly be optimal. You're getting like 9.5, 10 fantasy points from him for sure. Can you just go to defense real quick before we get out of here?
Yeah, so here's what we got for defense. Broncos being jammed, but rare time that a defense is being jammed by the field and by the Sims. This is usually a point where we get pretty different. But Broncos defense at $3,200, by far pulling the most ownership and showing up in 80% of lineups in the Sims too.
The Dolphins will wear their dark water uniforms tonight on Monday Night Football. They're not terrible. I'm more of the all whites like the Packers. The Bengals have a nice all whites. These aren't bad. I actually don't hate them. So at least they'll look good as they play like shit.
Yeah, I'm looking it up. I do like the I do agree with you. I remember the Bengals whiteout jersey looking pretty cool the last time I saw it.
Yeah, sweet.
Jets jerseys always look like dog shit to me. I prefer the color scheme of the Broncos.
There's a couple good ones
looking like Dolphins black jerseys.
Anyway, appreciate you guys. All 700 of you hanging out right now. You make this worthwhile. You make it so we can do these shows, and we appreciate it. Yo, come hang out on Tails. It's free. Say it till everybody's over there. Come come sweat some bets with us. Grab some DFS content over there. Free. Everything's free. No credit card, none of that. Let's have some fun. All football season. Not just that. We're going to have a lot of bets for basketball. I know Josh will, who's in chat. I know Greg will. We're going to have a lot of really good basketball content. So get in now. Familiarize yourself with the platform while we still got time to spare. And, of course, you want to check out any of the tools links in the description through Sportsbook or just the traditional way. And Greg will wrap this one up for DraftKings Pick 6, sponsor of the show. Get over there today, dude. I'm telling you, I think the correlation spots are going to make more sense than anything else on a day like today. Pay close attention. Put a story in mind with some of these game scripts, the way you see them playing out, and it could go a long way on the Pick 6 streets on top of it.
By the way, I agree with you. I looked up the Dolphins blackout jerseys. They look pretty cool.
They're not bad, right? They're pretty nice.
Yeah, I like it. Also, new customers play $5 in first pick sets and get $50 in bonus picks. If you have a problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Just call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 18 plus, only where Pick 6 operates. See dkng.co/Pick 6 states. This is void in New York and Ontario and where prohibited. Eligibility restrictions do apply. One per new DraftKings customer, $5 in first Pick 6 sets to receive max $50 issued as non-withdrawable bonus picks that expire in 14 days. This offer ends on October 13th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. Terms can be found at pick6.draftkings.com/promos, sponsored by DraftKings.